Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Okay, let's talk about the value of a sketchbook. This is an old sketchbook I've had for quite a while, and it's floating around in a drawer. Still some pages left. But I was flicking through it the other day looking for inspiration. I came um, across this sketch I did a long time ago. I've not even put a date on it, of an old derelict farm building. And it just occurred to me I could work it up into a demonstration for you to show how you can take a battered old sketchbook that you've had for some time and just find inspiration from it. So I've sketched the painting out, or the barn out, onto sheet of Saunders Waterford 300-gram rough paper, and I'm just going to use this as just a demonstration of how you can paint the sky and use a bit of imagination to take an old sketch and turn it into something a little better. So let's get started. I'm starting with the sky, and I'm wetting an area where I want to retain the white of the paper for some clouds. This is a mixture of cerulean blue and cobalt blue for the sky, and I'm just letting the colour touch the wet area to create some soft transitions. For the shadows under the clouds, I'm using burnt sienna and ultramarine for a grey, and I'm just going to add a little bit more burnt sienna to warm the grey up a little bit. Again, just letting the paint touch the edge of the wet area. For the foreground underpainting, or first wash, I'm using a watery mixture of yellow ochre, and I'm using the side of the brush to create some dry brush effects. I've let the initial washes dry, and I'm now going to work on the barn itself. For the first wash, I'm using whatever's in the palette to establish variety on the corrugated roof and in the timber cladding, letting the colours bleed and blend organically. I'm using a small flat brush for this, as I can get some really good dry brush effects with it. Again, I'm using whatever colours are in the palette, and I'm dragging the side of the brush quickly across the paper for some foreground textures. By using the colours already in the palette, I'm creating colour harmony in the painting. For the background trees, I'm starting with aureolin and sap green for the lightest lights on the trees, and I'm using a detail brush to create random leaf clusters, and then adding more sap green and finally some jadeite green for the darkest areas on the trees. Over time, I've found that aureolin, sap green and jadeite green work really well to create acceptable greens for trees and foliage. I've said this before, I used to mix greens from blues and yellows, but I found these ready-made colours to be an excellent shortcut to achieve the same effect, and it's worth looking at yourself if you're struggling to make greens. I've sped this next section of the video up even more, as I managed to film it out of focus. Luckily it's only where I was painting the darks using a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna, so hopefully no harm done. Okay, so now I'm using a flat brush again to add darker tones and texture to the uh, corrugated roof and the timber cladding around the barn. Once more I'm using whatever's in my palette to maintain that colour harmony. And I'm using the same colours from the palette, whatever's there for the fence posts and rails to the side of the barn. Not being too precise, it's just a loose sketch of what's there. Just an indication to suggest a fence. Finally, the foreground fence is added to create a feeling of depth and to lead the viewer's eye into the painting. I think I've gone a little too strong with the value on this foreground fence, so once it's dry I'll lift out some of the colour to stop it from being too dominant in the composition. And to finish off, a hint of some grasses using the side of a rigger to bring the painting together, and some foreground grasses as well, again with the rigger, just to add to that feeling of depth in the painting. I've just lifted the colour out of that foreground fence, and then you can see it's less dominant now and adds a little bit more harmony to the painting, and I'm pretty much done. I do hope you found this video useful. Flicking through old sketchbooks is a really good way of trying to find inspiration when you're stuck for something to paint. I very rarely get stuck these days, but occasionally I just think, well, what can I paint today and what can I demonstrate? So it was a big help looking through that old sketchbook. Do give this video a like if you found it useful. It really helps with YouTube, and do subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. I do try and post once a week. It doesn't always happen, but more or less once a week. So as I say, do subscribe, and thanks again for watching.